Hi, this is Ginger with the Overdrive radio show. How are you?
All right, Ginger. How are you doing?
I'm doing amazing. I've been pretty excited about doing this interview for a while, so thank you for taking the time.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Well, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, and then you had to come out and kind of pay homage to one of my favorite people ever in the industry, Mr. Sinatra. So now I'm like a double fan, and it's kind of like these two sides. I was a fan of, kind of your bad guy image on the acting screen, but then it was like, oh my goodness, the Sinatra thing. I could take a whole other series on that. I grew up with a huge love of Sinatra. No, I grew up in a little town in Texas. I didn't grow up in an environment like you where Sinatra was like secondhand knowledge, but I had a mom with a big love of Sinatra, especially his early movies, and one of the first movies I saw was Young at Heart, and I heard him sing Somebody to Watch Over Me, and I was just in love. And at a very young age, I was like, this is so not in my era. I'm in the wrong era. But it's so amazing how I've watched a couple of your videos singing live, and it's like, I have to see him in person. This feels like I'm in a time machine. I'm like back there, like in the same time I first heard him, just being amazed by his talent. And it's the best thing that's come close to Sinatra without being Sinatra. I mean, it's amazing. The orchestra, the entire thing. I was not expecting this side of you. We'll put it that way.
But thank you so much. It's really, I appreciate that, because the music means so much to me, and it was one of my first loves.
Yeah, I'm like, I saw that you made your motion picture debut and contract on Cherry Street with Frank Sinatra, and I'm like, who gets their start with Frank Sinatra? That's just crazy. I mean, you work with some incredible people. It's funny because I see a lot of people, first thing when they see your picture, they're going, Goonies. I don't get that at all. It's kind of like Ernie Hudson. When I interviewed him, people are like, Ghostbusters. I'm like, I don't see him as that. I see, the FBI guy he plays and the cop roles, and like, I don't see that at all. And I see, the FBI guy in Die Hard, and profiler, License to Kill, like, I see that. I don't see the Goonies, but I did like the Goonies. My kids are huge fans of it. They're teenagers now, so that was the first thing they said. Oh my goodness, you're going to interview the guy from the Goonies. I'm like, no, I'm interviewing the guy that sings Sinatra. So
thank you. That's thrilling for me. I appreciate that.
Well, I'm a huge fan, and I'm becoming good friends with Jen Gotzon, who is your female lead in this movie. And
yeah, she's a great kid.
Is she not adorable? She's one of the just most adorable people. She was really blown away by you and Ernie Hudson, John Schneider, and what a great cast for this movie. I will tell you, it was a little bit. If you remember the movie Summersby with Richard Gere, that's kind of how I felt about it at first, and then it turned into more like The Sixth Sense, where the ending made you had to rethink the whole movie. It was so amazing.
Oh, interesting.
Like it made you rethink the whole movie. It's so, although people mostly see you as an actor, you really started out in music. You were into opera, right?
Oh yeah, I was into sports and the arts at an early age. Loving the music and loving singing and the acting, and I had a strong passion. I was drawn to the opera, as well as the American songbook. Because in an Italian household, there were two figures: the Pope and Sinatra. You know what I mean? Or Sinatra and the Pope, but not necessarily in that order. But
And I see you speak fluent Italian, correct?
Yes.
I envy you. It's such a beautiful thing to hear people talk in that language, and I wish I had a clue what they're saying.
Well, you can get Rosetta Stone, and you can learn quite a bit.
That's true. So, I'm I'm so envious of the fact that you ever were in the same room with Frank Sinatra, but obviously you were hugely influenced by him and his music. But it's so...
Well, it wasn't just, besides just Picasso's contribution to music, what Sinatra represented for the Italian American, before that, I think there was really, one actor, Rudolph Valentino, you know what I mean, in silent films. But Italians were greaseballs, dagos, winos, you know what I mean? We were, the immigrant population has always been looked down on. And Sinatra, being such a huge figure at that time, gave the Italian American a dignity and a huge identity. And also a lot more than guys started to sing and go into the arts, which they were already artistic, but, just coming to America, not speaking the language, the parents. Now the first generation was speaking the language and acclimating.
Yeah.
So he was the first guy to come out against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry, a big superstar. So he made a tremendous social contribution that I remember or wanted to remind people of in this particularly divisive time we're living in. That's one of the other reasons why I wanted to tackle the songbook. And also, when he was alive, there was no need, really, what I mean, for anybody, for me, because he was the epitome of doing a songbook. And now I feel that there's a significant voice that's a void in terms of performing and hearing that music. There are great people doing it, but not quite to what he did.
Yeah, you can see that he was a huge influence. You hear people like Michael Bublé, and even Harry Connick Jr. I mean, you can see the influence that Sinatra had on them, even if they never own up to it. I mean, it's...
Oh, they did. They said that Bublé early on, and there's nothing wrong with that because Sinatra, at his early stage, and it's just, sorry, Ginger.
That's okay.
Sinatra, his big influence when he was a kid was Bing Crosby.
Yeah, I can tell.
His room was covered in posters of Bing Crosby, you know what I mean, and listening to the records.
Did he when you met him and worked on the film, did it seem like who you had kind of put in your mind who he was, or was he different? What was that like?
I never he was just great. I mean, it was just great, hanging with him and meeting him, and he was, he liked me.
Yeah.
It was kind of hard because the ice was broken pretty early on, and that he was one of the guys that has to okay you being hired. And then after the first, and I only had had a nice part. I worked the whole summer, of course, but it was, one of the hitmen, the Sonatas brothers. But he, the first day on the set that we were there together, he complimented me, and that immediately put me at ease. And then we were friendly.
It's cool to see your acting dynamic to go from things like watching you perform Sinatra, and then your kind of comedic role in the Goonies, which you get to hear your voice, you get to hear you singing, and you could tell then that you had a great voice. And then you go to Die Hard, where you're Agent Johnson, who you think's gonna be the hero, and ends up not being the hero. And I heard one of your interviews where you're talking about that you saw it with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he was talking about how you were really cool, and then he's like, "What's wrong now? Your character's an idiot." But it
was funny when I saw Die Hard with Arnold.
Yeah,
and we were friends, from doing Raw Deal.
Mm-hmm. Great movie.
And we were sitting there at 20th Century Fox, and we're watching the Die Hard, and I come on screen, and that great entrance of the character.
Oh yeah,
and Arnold
very
goes,
strong.
"Oh, this is fantastic. You look fantastic." Because it looked like the character was going to take over and save everybody, right?
Right.
And as the character got, sillier and sillier, he says, "What happened to you, you idiot? He's an idiot now. He's not the hero." What'd you do? It was so funny to see his reaction. He was upset that the character turned down.
Well, it's kind of hard to go from tough Arnold, to seeing you, be that vulnerable like that. But it's funny. You do a very good Arnold impersonation. Like, you sound very much like him when you say that. I'm like, well,
oh, I know. Well, we were so close for many years, and during political campaigns, when he was campaigning for governor, I would call my friends up. This is Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'm running for governor, and I really wish that you give you your vote. It's very important for California. I will bring the country back and business back to California, because I understand this. And then I would, go on and on and on. And my friends' kids would hear this on the speakerphone. Dad, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Like, nope, it's your dad. What's funny is, you have you had the role of Sheriff Woodley in Doonby, and I was like, this is so perfect for him, because you have this character about you as an actor that you can walk on set, and you could have just stood there with your hat on your head and looked intimidating enough to be the sheriff. But then you have this ability to, kind of like the Goonies and some other roles, where you can be very vulnerable. And like when you're singing, I think you're a lot like Sinatra like that, because Sinatra had a lot of tough exterior at times, but then you would hear him sing and just see this other side. And I can tell you're kind of a multifaceted person in that way. The Sheriff Woodley guy, you pulled that off very well. Like I said, you didn't even have to talk to make that work. You have that character about you, when presence, I guess, when you walk on, where it's like, here's the sheriff. Well, yep, I believe that. You had a goofy assistant, that's for sure. But
how did the sheriff come across? What is the effect of the sheriff, do you think?
Very protective. Very protective of the town, and very. You could tell he was very authoritative, but again, had this, like, I care about my town, like, I care about what's happening.
Yeah.
Care about what's happening to the people, and who's this Doonby guy, what's he doing to my town? That's kind of the vibe I got from watching it. And I'm a huge movie buff. From everything from Sinatra's, I was a big Doris Day fan, still am, to even the big cinematic, CGI stuff that they do now. It depends on the film and the art that's behind it, and especially the characters. This film, you know what I love about this? As a Christian, I saw this film with so many metaphors to my faith and to just, so many things in life. I saw Doonby in about 3 or 4 different ways. As a person, I could see him portraying different metaphors and different people, and even God himself. Just the personality and the things that he did, and then of course the twist ending, kind of making me rethink the whole thing. I'm glad they let me screen it online so I could watch it more than one time, because it was, it wasn't enough to watch it once. I had to watch it again and see it, knowing what I knew the second time. It was just a completely different thing. It was like, oh, now I can see this. It opens up so many great questions, I think, and kind of makes you just think about choices and consequences. And how did this movie, as an actor, how did this stand out to you when you got the script?
Well, first off, Peter McKenzie's enthusiasm,
Yeah.
What a lovely man he is. He's just a great guy. And I knew that they were doing this film, and I have a very strong faith, and I have my beliefs, and I like that the script posed thought-provoking questions without being proselytizing or preachy.
Yeah.
Because to culturally shift people's minds, it's one thing talking to people that are of the same belief, but it's another thing being able to have people that don't agree to be able to sit down for an hour and a half or 2 hours and watch something and maybe get affected, or let themselves at least start to think differently. And that's the cultural shift. And as we said, to me, culture is so important to being able to affect the youth and people So that was one aspect of the film, and also "It's a Wonderful Life" was always I was a huge fan of that movie, and to think again how we take one life, how one life makes a difference like that. Imagine if any of us didn't, who knows what would have happened? Who knows what we, you know what I mean? So this gives you a bit of that fantasy and the reality of it, and realizing the preciousness of the human life.
I think that because of Facebook and Twitter and everything, although it's helped in so many ways to get things out to people and get the news out. I mean, I use it as a tool in business, but it can also get to where people are looking for something real, and they just don't know how real anything is. And this film, I like it because you can look at Ernie and say, instead of going, oh, he's a bartender, you think this is this great guy that loves his wife and the people in the town and tries to give this guy a chance that he doesn't even know. And you just see all these characters, and even Jen's character, which is party girl, and I mean, there's kind of a little bit of everything as far as characters, and it gives you a way for people to identify with them and say, that's either my friend, or that's me, or that's some time in my life, and I could have made this decision, and I should have made this one. And it just, there's so many different aspects like that it just, I don't know, it just keeps you thinking long after you've seen the movie. And I think the greatest films do that. I mean, that they make you think, they make you, reference the movie at some point in your, when you're talking, you're like, wow, it's like this when this character did this. I find my daughter and I, we do that a lot. We're both very big into movies, and it's music has been a huge influence for you. I grew up, I practically feel like if I were to bleed, musical notes would come out. I love music so much, and I think music and movies are both so powerful, and I don't think movies are used enough. I think Doonby is one of those movies where I wish there was a million Doonby movies where they were that thought-provoking, that you actually walk out of the theater and think, I might want to think differently about my life. I might want to change something. I might want to change everything. I mean, it actually makes huge questions appear in your head, and even if you're happy with what you've done, it makes you just reassure yourself in your faith. And I love that it doesn't come out and say what this film is about. It doesn't come out and slap people in the face with a billboard or with picket signs. It doesn't come across judgmental at all. I think it's the best ministries that I see is when people just simply share their stories. And this is just a way to share stories and for people to identify it, and you leave the audience to make their own decision. You just basically are laying out what ifs, and kind of like the It's a Wonderful Life, and it is. It's so, I know it was great to hear that you were a man of faith. I actually saw an article that at one point, a year ago or so, that they were trying to take down the nativity scene, and you were actually organizing a protest against them taking down the nativity scene. And
that was a heartbreaking thing. Yeah.
I mean, that's really hard to do. And like you said, some comment about being a conservative and how you kind of stay under the radar out there in California. There's so many people that I can tell are definitely, conservative and are believers, but they reach people on. Jen is like that, Jen Gottson. I mean, she does movies that influence people and then let them get to know her and who she's about, and then she's able to share her faith. I mean, I love that you stood up for them taking that nativity scene down. It's sad when you talk about culture that, things like that. I think we're losing so much of that. I think, for me, I'm from a little town in Texas. I didn't feel like we had any culture at all. So I know what you're talking about when you mean, introducing our generations to culture. I mean, I make my kids listen to different songs and let them see, you're really a big fan of Michael Bublé, but this is why he sounds like this. He was influenced by these people before him, and it's amazing to watch them see it again in a different way. I saw even Quincy Jones was really impressed with your Sinatra record, and I just got your Christmas song, by the way, too, and the New York Christmas, and that's so lovely.
Oh, what do you think of it?
Oh, you know what? It sounds like something you would hear playing in Times Square, like around the lighting of the tree or something. I mean, it's very, like, you can see the snow and the stores.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels very much New York Christmas. I mean, it feels very Christmassy, but yet it's still got that Sinatra vibe to it. So I'm loving it. But it's almost
great.
Bing Crosby, though. I mean, it's reminiscent of a lot of Bing Crosby's Christmas stuff that he did.
It's a brand new Christmas song, which is what I'm happy about too. You know,
The way you describe it, I mean, it's very storytelling. The way it talks, it gives you images about what the Christmas is like, but it's got that kind of old school Bing Crosby type, feel to it, where it just makes it feel like Christmas already. I'm not ready either. I'm not shopping yet. But yes, it's such a wonderful song. Jen said she got a chance to see you live, and that's definitely a huge goal of mine, is to see you do this live. She said she was not expecting it. She was expecting you to just come out, there's a mic, and she's like, and then there's this orchestra, and she's like, what? It was very surprising to her, and I think that's important. I love those days, the big band days, and it's you pull it off very well, very very sleek, the way you come out, and your mannerisms and everything. It's like it's like a time machine. It just takes you back to why you love Sinatra and big bands in the first place. So huge hats off to that. My mom's a very critical fan of Sinatra, and this went over very well for her. I tell you, you did on your album. You did two of my favorite Sinatra songs. You did "Summer Wind" and "All the Way." Those are two of my favorites.
I'm so glad.
I don't know why. It's just "All the Way" is just a lovely romantic song, but "Summer Wind," I don't know what it does. It's just one of those songs that just takes you to another place for 3 minutes, just a great way. It's a great escape. I see you were in Bulgaria last week filming The Expendables 3. Wow, that is so cool. I can't believe you were, this is the first time you've been involved in one of the Expendables films, right?
Yes.
How amazing is that? A lot of heavyweight actors in that.
Yes. Yes, I mean, it's the biggest all-star cast, I think, assembled in recent history.
Wow. Those movies are great.
Stallone, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, Jet Li, Dolph Lundgren, Schwarzenegger, Kelsey Grammer, Antonio Banderas, it just is Ronda Rousey, Ortiz, what's his name, Kellen Lutz. So you got the young and the classic legends together.
Wow. I didn't know. Yeah, Kellen Lutz from the Twilight series. So you've got several different styles. So am I allowed to ask what you're playing in the roles?
Well, I can tell you. I played the head of the Albanian mafia.
That kind of fits.
What?
Yeah, that tough guy thing fits. Yeah, I can believe that.
Yes, the character's name is Goran Vata, head of Albanian mafia. So you don't want to screw around with this character, I tell you now. Because you'll be in trouble.
You're so surprising. The first thing I thought of was he's either going to be like totally different than I think he is, or he's going to be like tough guy, and I can see that it's kind of a little bit of a mixture, but mostly you're sound like you're more of a easygoing, fun guy, and I love it. I mean, you've had me laughing and smiling this whole time. I'm so glad. It comes across when you perform, but some of your roles, you have to admit, they cast you regularly as either a very...
Well, you think that's who I am, but that's why in singing, I feel like I've been let out of prison, because it's not who I am at all. I was the kid around the block that used to shovel the snow for the old lady that didn't have a husband or a kid to shovel the snow. You know, it was just because I think that's where Sinatra also responded to me, because I was a forceps baby.
Yeah.
And he was a forceps baby. And he had scars on his neck. And
wow.
He mentioned one time, he says, don't let those scars bother you, you know what I mean? So it's just very interesting. But the music lets me really express who I am.
Are you more hugely influenced by doing music or by the acting, or is it pretty similar?
Well, going back to what Gustav Mahler said about music, that music is the closest to the absolute. There's something about channeling that music that is very spiritual. There is but you're not dealing with that sometimes in the roles you're playing. You see what I'm saying? You're dealing with maybe a different kind of energy, where in the music, it's all positive energy. Even if it's dealing with heartbreak, you're at least expressing the pain that we may all universally have experienced through a breakup or a romantic breakup, or the elation of one. So music to me is and the singing is just a huge channeling aspect of my life, and I really am I just love doing it.
So why did it take you so long to give us your Sinatra? Just kidding.
You know, I would think if you ask all my family members, they would say, you know, he was going to be a singer first. What happened? You know, I think Sinatra was alive. There was no reason for. I didn't really have a burning desire to take on the songbook. Then I directed a film called The Dukes that won 9 awards a couple of years ago. Very sweet film. You should take a look at it. I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
And what happened was I found that the world today, as we spoke earlier, is very harsh, and the culture is fraying, and music seems to be fractured in some ways. So I wanted to take this thing and really respond to the Great American Songbook is the Shakespeare of America. It's the golden age of American music. Again, it's what made the world fall in love with our country and us with each other. So it's for that reason that I wanted to take on the songbook, to remind people also of Sinatra's significance culturally, not just his his contribution to music, as I speak about.
You know, he seemed so effortless when whether he was acting or he was singing. I'm sure it wasn't effortless for him, but it felt that way. It was like butter. I mean, it just seemed like he just slipped into a song or a role or whatever he was doing. It just seemed like he just didn't have to even work at it, which I know is probably not true. He's probably a perfectionist, I would imagine, but it's something that you can tell. You know, it's funny about you talk about music being fractured, and it's lost. It's become a cookie cutter copycat, kind of almost an assembly line of singles. Like everything has to have a certain beat, and about certain categories that you write about and you don't write about. But you think about Summer Wind, I mean, who writes like that? I mean, a song that just talks about that was the main thing he was thinking about at the time, it was the Summer Wind. I mean, taking a song that maybe about romance or something else, but drawing some little detail out of it like that, it's so rich. I think that's what I see in that type of performing and singing. It's just rich. It's rich in culture, it's rich in sound and songwriting, and you see there's a lot of talent out there, I know, but I think some record companies try to put them in a box and shape them, and they don't have as much artistic freedom, and it's definitely amazing to see. I see that you actually recorded this in the Capitol Records building in Hollywood, where Frank Sinatra actually performed.
Yes, I did, and on that microphone that he used.
Wow! Oh my goodness, that has to be kind of heartwarming and kind of sentimental to do, kind of full circle that way.
You feel the vibe. vibes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the reaction that you've received so far from Doonby, like from family or friends that might have, seen it? Have you had any of them kind of tell you what they think of this role versus what you've done already?
Not too much yet. I'm waiting to hear it because people haven't quite seen it yet.
Right.
So I'm waiting to see what the response might be or not be. So I'm getting it early on now, starting to come in now.
Did you feel like there was it was a different set because of? I mean, I know it's not a faith film technically, but there's a lot of faith-based people involved in that film. Did it have a very warm vibe to like the set? I mean, was it different like that?
Oh yeah, the set. Peter was very sweet. Everybody was great on the set. It was like being in a small town. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That we had that camaraderie and that kind of. We stayed at the breakfast clubs instead of hotels. We stayed in homes. You know what I mean? Those what do they call them?
A B&B. Yeah.
Which was nice. So you got a real cultural feeling instead of a detached feeling from the film.
How did you get connected with this particular script?
Well, I think people knew of my strong faith, and they reached out to me on that. And that it was brought to my attention through Mark Joseph and then through Peter. And that's how I got involved. It's
an incredible vision. The entire storyline, it was just carried out wonderful, and the lead actors like John and Jen, I was happily surprised watching John. It seemed like he brought out like almost a different side of him. My son's like, oh, Dukes of Hazzard. I mean, it's funny how unfortunately that's what the reminders go back to more of the silly roles when people think of people, but to me, I mean, this is like, I got to hear him sing. Like, he wrote an original song to sing in this movie. And, I mean, I think it was just kind of a family of unique actors. And everybody seemed to fit the role that they were in. They just fit very well. And, you came across as, as the normal authoritative thing, but also more like the down-home, sheriff you would see, like, back in my hometown in Texas. I mean, it's more of it's a quiet authority. It's like everybody knows, that he's the boss, and there's that huge respect, and he can be a little crass at times, but overall, he loves his town, and he's afraid of what this is doing. I think Doonby in the movie scared a lot of the characters because he represented change, and he represented the unusual, and made them question themselves and question, who he was and the role that he was doing. It was just a very thought-provoking, amazing film. I think that it has the capability to save lives, literally. I hope someone watches this film and thinks again about their decision. The film has a very pro-life feel to it, and if it saves one life, it was worth every piece of money, sweat and tears that went into this film. And
yes.
I was really glad to hear that of your faith background, that you were able to work on this film. And it's definitely good to see the soft side of you by seeing your Sinatra stuff, and definitely going to find you doing. Are you going to do like a maybe like a TV or a DVD set or anything like that? Have you thought of branching?
Eventually, yes.
Eventually, yeah.
Yep. In answer to that, absolutely.
Awesome. You need to be. Are you performing regularly anywhere, like on a in a?
I perform at a club to try out new material, a jazz club called Vibrato here in Beverly Glen, Herb Alpers Jazz Club. But otherwise, I'm in Vegas. I was at the Venetian, at the Orleans. I'll be doing other tours and other shows, and we're working out a deal on a long-term deal on a different casino and Atlantic City and touring, and we're working on all that right now. It's hard to do it between my film stuff, but
right.
we're nailing down some stuff that I'll give you my email, and you can email me, and I can let you know what's happening.
Oh, that would be awesome. I have to catch this live, because I know that big band can't sound the same watching it or hearing it.
No, but you, I mean, when you catch me live, you'll see. I'll send you some stuff from I did a performance in New York for 10,000 people. I'll send you some of the response.
Oh, awesome. Well, I know you probably have a lot of interviews. I don't know where our time is cut off because I know we switched it around a little bit. I can't tell you what an honor it is, and thank you for putting the life back into the Sinatra songs and bringing it to full scale life like that, and for your role in Doonby, for being a part of this film. I think people just recognizing that you're in it will make them go see it, and I think it's a very provocative, thought-provoking film, and I think it's going to be a huge impact, and I'm so thankful that you were in it.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that, and you've been a doll, and let me give you my email.
I love that you talk like Sinatra. You say things like doll. I'm from, so I pick up on that. The things that I'm not used to that. For a girl, that's like blushing. You call ladies a doll. It's like that's blushing material. Especially at my age when you have like kids. I don't
mind that. I guess I get a little pleasure out of making you blush then.
Well, I have like 3 kids, one in college, so you get that you feel like an old mom for a while, and then you hear somebody go, doll, and then you have that thick, it's kind of Italian style accent. It's very nice. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sheriff Woodley, for your role. I'm so glad you're in this, and I am going to see you. I promise you, I will see this in person.
I hope so, yeah.
I'll probably bring my mom.
So send me your email so we can be in touch, and I can send you some of the quotes and some of the stuff you can take a look at.
Absolutely. Maybe we can get this over to Detroit. There's some huge, beautiful theaters in Detroit that would be.
There's the Fox Theater.
Oh, the Fox. And they have now the Fillmore, too, that's doing a lot. The Fillmore Theater and the Fisher Theater. So,
really?
Yes. I just went to a concert about 2 months ago at the Fillmore, and it's kind of like a smaller scale Fox Theater. It's gorgeous. It's rich in all the, ornate fixtures and the lighting and gold stuff everywhere. I mean, that's where you belong. You need all that gold behind you and all those red velvet drapes, and that would be great. That would be amazing. So yeah, I will email you right now. And thank you so much. You've been just an absolute pleasure.
And you too, darling. So thanks a lot, and I hope I'll be waiting for your email.
All right, I will do it right now. Thank you so much. You have an awesome day.
You too.